Let me get this straight. So your dad is dead. He's left you the family business despite your deadbeat brother being the oldest child. You find out that your expansive British estate that you grew up on is actually a front for a big old pot syndicate. And now you're stuck working for the mob boss's daughter, who happens to be just a few years younger than you. But probably there's a dynamic there where it's either going to be a will they, won't they, or also you're going to feel a little bit like you're being talked down to.
It reminds me of Knives Out or Succession. There's always like a surprise in the will. In this case, it's Edward. He's going to be able to get the estate instead of Franklin, Franklin has this big kind of tantrum when he learns that.
How much of the first episode did you need to see before you felt like you understood what the entire show was going to encapsulate?
It puts you in it right away. Like,
yeah,
I understood
you
the whole
watched
episode.
The Gentleman back in the day, 2019, when it came out.
We both did. We actually saw it in 2020. Do you remember the backstory as to how we saw it?
No.
So it was February 9th, 2020, and we were watching the Oscars. And I really, really wanted to see a movie just because they had been talking about it all night. And I had to convince you. The Gentleman was my last hope, and it had an 8.1 on IMDb. And I said to you, with this score, it's going to be on the top 250. So we decided to go on February 9th, 2020. I was seated in row H6, and we ended up
I do remember there was no one like there.
Yes, we were the only two people in the movie theater.
Yes.
I like The Gentleman. It was like the last film we saw. Actually, The Invisible Man was the last film that we saw right before everything got shut down. But then on February 27th, I sent you a picture because I was in my junior year dorm and I was going through the top 250 American movie lists. And I said, told you, because it was number, I think, 169 or something like that.
Where's it now?
It fell off.
Yeah,
it's at like 7.8 on IMDb. But again, it was a good movie, and it was very strange because at the time, it was a January film. January is notorious for bad movies. However, that one got good reviews.
When did you first hear about Guy Ritchie, just as a person?
I think it was back in like 2017.
And did you immediately like learn about his signature style, his distinctive characters?
Quick editing,
kooky
weird
criminals with weird names. In this show, it's supposed to be like Thick Rick, Chucky, Gospel John, Tony Blair.
A lot of slow motion, a lot of classical music in the background.
Yeah,
yes.
He's not Michael Bay, but he certainly likes... Do you think that he's sort of like he could have been part of the Peaky Blinders crew? Because of how stylized that was presented?
No, because Peaky Blinders, it felt like it was more clean. It was actually telling a story. Guy Ritchie, you're going to get where you're going to get.
I meant more costuming, because the guy seems obsessed with time eras.
Yeah, right? Like he did The Man from U.N.C.L.E., I think, back in 2015.
Well, even from what I remember of The Gentleman, it was definitely Charlie Hunnam's. Like, I remember his outfit was very much like the stitching of it and everything. It was also very meta, but refined aggression. That's the name of the title to the episode. Right? And it reminds me of Ruthless Aggression from John Cena. When he first Okay. It does feel like we've sort of been leading up to this show, because if you go back to the beginning of the year, we started with Fool Me Once. That was about a will reading where there was this British estate. I'm not going to give anywhere spoilers in any of these. The brother's son was about a dad who died.
Right.
Gang ties. The two brothers come about. One of them doesn't even know about the family business, just like this. Echo had a woman kingpin. Ted, what was the pilot's title? It was Just Say Yes to What? Weed. Boy Swallows Universe was Proxy Dad. He may or may not be dead as a result of getting absorbed in drug trafficking. Has Been Hotel, musical cartoon. Well, what did Guy Ritchie do before The Gentleman? He was interested in Aladdin, apparently.
The 2019?
I didn't know. I don't even think they publicized that like that much. When they did Disney, the ads for it, I don't remember.
I can never imagine Guy Ritchie doing
Aladdin.
a Disney film. It got panned though, right?
It did get panned, didn't it? But this is more to his return of like what he's used to doing. It's kind of what 2023 was all about. The capers. You even have Giancarlo Esposito returning.
Yeah, that was a big surprise.
Like he was in Kaleidoscope, but he's not playing. Is he playing a straight up villain here or what?
No, he's playing someone that's interested in buying the estate.
Does he know about the weed business that's going on the estate?
I think it's
left
hard
in the open.
It's hard to tell. Yeah, it's left in the open because Giancarlo Esposito, you don't see him do something necessarily evil, but he always plays a hint of evil in his roles.
So you're not exactly sure where his allegiance lies, and you don't know whether or not he actually works for the drug trade yet. All right. When it comes down to it, though, Guy Ritchie and mob stories seem to go in sync with one another. That's why I feel like when he picks these names for people, right? Gospel John, Thick Rick, Chucky, I feel like he either uses a random number generator or he uses a mob boss generator. I took the test for a mob boss generator. Do you want to guess what I got?
What name did you get?
Eggman. But the bigger deal is that it tells you what your idol's name is, and my idol's name is Lucky Luciano. So apparently I'm Italian. Okay, so getting back to what the story's about, Eddie's here. He's found out all these secrets about his family, and
he's a border patrol agent. Actually, that's the first scene that we see. He's trying to get goats off this street. But yes, he returns home after his rich father dies and leaves him to the estate as opposed to his older son, Freddie. Freddie was also surprised to see that Daniel Ings...
Yes, from Lovesick or Scrotal Recall or Sex Education.
And that was actually my first pro. You had Daniel Ings, Giancarlo Esposito, and the Tick. The guy who plays Tommy Dixon. He ends up showing up here. He's more intimidating and more scary than I've seen him in any other role because he usually only shows up in comedies.
That's right.
But yes, Edward, he struggles with the finances, especially when trying to help Freddie, who owns the cocaine dealer, Tommy Dixon, again, the guy who plays the Tick, £8 million. And that's where the episode kind of takes place. Edward is trying to come up with this money somehow so that he can pay it back. And then Susie Glass reveals that growing weed on the estate is some way to make money, and we see the same weed room that we see in the film. I actually didn't remember it until...
That's why it doesn't feel like a spin-off as much as a retelling of a different way of saying the story.
Yes, and also it doesn't feel like it necessarily had to be the gentleman. That was getting into one of my cons. Almost like Monsieur Spade just felt like a normal crime story. I know that they wanted to get the clicks, but I didn't see why this had to be the gentleman.
Well, again, same universe.
Same universe, and I like the film, but I didn't really see the connection between the two.
Don't you think that if Guy Ritchie had produced this and thrown it out there, that people would have said, this is way too much like The Gentleman without calling the attention to it?
I don't really see it that way, though, because a lot of Guy Ritchie projects feel like you know what you're getting. Yes, the same thing.
All right.
You get the quick cuts, you get the slow-mo, you get the classical songs in the background. It's just, it always feels the same. And that's not necessarily bad, but it's also not great either.
You're also going to get like a lot of famous people, right?
Yes.
So I wanted to play a quick game here from the original, how good your memory was of who was in it. So I'm going to just keep on listening. Okay. Matthew McConaughey.
Yes. He's the main
Charlie
character.
Hunnam.
Yes.
Michelle Dockery.
Michelle Dockery. False?
No, Michelle Dockery was the main lady. She's the one from Godless. She's the one from Downton Abbey, which this show has been compared to. I think the person who plays Lady Sabrina Halstead, she said that this is a cross between Downton Abbey and Peaky Blinders. And it's funny because The Regime was also compared to Downton Abbey.
Actually, I can see the Downton Abbey comparison because prior to what you might believe, there's not a lot of action in the first episode. A lot of it is just kind of family drama.
Yeah, it sounds like, again, reading
a
will, or like you pointed out with, what was the first movie that you said it was like?
Knives Out.
Knives Out, that doesn't have a lot of violence either. So yeah, Bugsy Malone.
Bugsy Malone. Bugsy, I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, no, he was in it. Aaron Daniel Davis, the British rapper. Bugsy Malone was definitely in The Gentleman. Jeremy Strong,
yes.
Andy Garcia.
I'm just gonna say yes to all of these because I feel like they were. Yeah, right.
Colin Farrell.
Absolutely, Colin Farrell.
Scott Caan.
Yes.
Casey Affleck.
Yeah, I don't remember Casey Affleck being in it.
Okay, Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant was in it.
Bernie Mac.
Bernie Mac was definitely not.
And Brad Pitt. I put in like half of Ocean's 11 cast in there. Definitely most of those people were not. Andy Garcia was not in there. Scott Caan wasn't in there. Casey Affleck, no. But the first few were. And Hugh Grant, of course. Hugh Grant, also from The Regime. I like the crossover. I also like that in this edition, even though that Eddie isn't playing Matthew McConaughey's character, not even trying to, you do have the comedy from the film transfer over with people like Daniel Ings, right?
Yes.
Because tell me about this chicken outfit.
So, yeah, midway through, it turns out that Tommy Dixon decides that he's going to lower the price from $8 million to $4 million on behalf of Susie Glass. And there's they have this whole negotiation scene. In fact, there's Chiron text where you see them trying to figure out how they're negotiating it. I like that scene. That was kind of a Guy Ritchie staple. But yes, by the very end of it, they say, okay, we'll pay $4 million, which Edward is able to come up with. But what Freddie has to do is he has to be put in this chicken suit and basically apologize for what he's done.
Oh, and, so this is supposed to like make fun of him.
This is supposed to humiliate him.
He didn't get into the chicken suit because he was just drunk.
And Freddie, gotcha. Freddie, even when he hears that it's going to be filmed, he's like, no, I don't want to do it. And Edward kind of threatens him and is like, look, I came up with the $4 million. You are going to follow everything I say and you're going to do it. And Tommy Dixon at the very end of the episode, he comes to the mansion and he just straight up starts yelling at Freddie when when he puts on the chicken suit, absolutely destroying any dignity he had left. He's like, "You're not doing the chicken correctly," and he's making him.
Is this going to set him on the straight and narrow, or like not?
No, this wasn't meant to. This was supposed to completely eliminate all dignity that Freddy had.
I know, but at this point, where does he go as a character from now?
Well, that's the interesting question, because by the end of the episode, he says, "I have to go to the bathroom." He goes to the bathroom, comes back out, and the last scene we see, he pulls out a double-barrel shotgun, shoots Tommy Dixon. So the Tick guy is not going to be in the rest of the series. We see blood splattering on the walls.
It's a little Ozarky, but yeah.
I never really seen Daniel Ings in that type of role before either, because even though he is supposed to be comedy, there's a lot of drama.
He's been in something recent that we've done, but he had
The Winter King.
Yes, he had a ton of like prosthetics and like like a huge beard and stuff on.
Yes, here he actually looked like himself. I recognized him the first minute I saw him, but at the end of the episode, he walks out, he screams with the double-barrel shotgun in the chicken suit that he just had. That's another staple of Guy Ritchie things, just ridiculous things that are supposed to...
Absurdity.
Yeah, that you would think would be funny, but end up having a lot of drama behind them. He screams, and that's where the first episode ends.
You recognize Susie Glass, Kaya Scodelario?
I actually didn't.
From Skins, the main Effy.
Oh, wow.
She was my favorite character from back then. I would have instantly recognized.
Every single person, Giancarlo Esposito, Effy, they all had their own Netflix shows, and then they just
she knows how to lead a show. And in fact, she said that she wasn't going to sign on to this because of how, like, in past films with Guy Ritchie, he doesn't necessarily give the female perspective that much of a thought.
I remember in The Gentleman, there was a rape scene that was almost about to take place.
Yeah, so. That was Michelle Dockery again from Downton Abbey. And then, but with Kaya, she's going to be there for most of the season. Yeah, that's what she got the promise for.
She's playing someone that again worked with Edward and Franklin's father, but also
it's also her first role where she's not playing like a teenager or like a young adult.
Well, she is playing the daughter of someone named Billy, and even one of the reasons why Bobby, and
Billy, yeah,
and the reason why she even was able to speak to Tommy Dixon midway through the episode and had that whole negotiation tactic was because Bobby was really respected. Tommy even says that. There's also a quick subplot scene that I felt wasn't really needed, and maybe they're just pat the runtime, where they have this weird wrestling kind of side plot where Freddy, he decides that he's going to use some money and put it down on this wrestling rink on like two heavyweight champions.
Is it a misdirection? Is it supposed to lead you into a different area? I was wondering if Eddie may have some reservations about finding out what his dad did, like thinking, oh man, I really respected the old man, but now I have to he was taking money on the side this whole time. Did you get any of that, or is it mostly just Eddie's in for the ride?
Not really. Eddie is, I think, really annoyed with Freddy.
Yeah.
Because I think that Freddy that's going to be probably the main, they're going to be butting heads throughout the rest of the 7 episodes, because it's supposed to be 8 episodes, right?
All the interviews, yes. All the interviews had Daniel Ings and Theo James teamed up. It felt like that was definitely supposed to be a connection there. It is weird that Miramax agreed to come out with a TV show. They don't do a lot of scripted television.
Well, I'm sure that they got a lot of money for it also, right? Like they gave a lot of money to the show.
The Gentleman made a lot of money. It was $115 million worldwide on a $22 million budget.
One of the few movies to even make a budget back, because again, it was released in January, and March 2020 is when movie theaters closed.
Yeah, I just find it funny though that Miramax, they did From Dusk Till Dawn, the series. Before that, they're very well known for Tokyo Pig.
Tokyo Pig.
Yeah, this is like...
I thought you were going to say Tokyo Vice.
No. This is some weird cartoon show from, I think, the early 2000s that it came from Japan. And in Japan, it was called Fair, then Partly Piggy. But they seem to only like to make, besides that, TV shows that are based on previous movies.
Oh, so maybe that's the reason.
They're working on one for the Halloween series. Like, they're going to make a Halloween movie.
I was glad to see that Guy...
the TV show, sorry. Yeah.
I was glad to see Guy Ritchie created this. Like, I was glad to see he actually had a role in it, because originally I thought that it was just something where he would be listed as an executive producer but not actually work on the show.
No, I have a quote of his, and also he was this like the third film that he's had adapted to a TV show. One of the other ones he worked on, and then one he didn't, but he said, I felt within The Gentleman I could have had at least continued to another film film. I've had an inexhaustible creative reservoir of different ideas that I've come up with in the past. The ability to be able to extend a story has been tremendously liberating.
And talking about one of those shows that failed, Snatch was able to get people like Ed Westwick before the allegations, Rupert Grint, someone else from Skins. So when you're talking about famous people signing on for Guy Ritchie films, he definitely is able to do so.
Yeah. No, people have been very complimentary. Let's get into the reviews.
I will give it probably a 7.5 out of 10. It doesn't warrant, like, it hasn't convinced me yet to watch the rest of the series, but I will be tuning into
right on the precipice.
I will be tuning into episode 2.
Right now it has an 8.4 on IMDb.
Oh, wow, that's a high score.
You just said that with the movie, that's how you convinced me to go to that one. Collider and Variety, very optimistic about the series. 9 out of 10 for each. They said the show is better than the movie. AV Club, also favorable, but said it rolled its eyes at how quickly Eddie, the main character, adjusted to his new set of circumstances. This guy was supposed to be above the law, like he was, or not, he was supposed to follow the law. And then he comes home and suddenly he's okay with all this stuff.
The show's not like the movie, though. That's the thing. Aside from the Weed Garden being the same set, and aside from Guy Ritchie
and Bugsy Malone showing up.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
Well, no. But I'm saying that they're two completely separate plots. In fact, it reminded me a lot of the Christoph Waltz Nat Wolff show, The Consultant.
Yes.
By the end of the episode, because the Tick character, Tommy Dixon, was almost playing an exact replica of what Christoph Waltz does in that show. I assume
they were trying to make him seem like he would be the overarching villain.
Yes, and then
killing him off at the beginning is always a good idea.
Right.
The Telegraph found that the Guy Ritchie flourishes, to be a little irritating.
I mean, I like the scene where it's during the negotiation scene and the yellow chalk just suddenly shows up out of nowhere, and it's not something the characters are supposed to be, but again, it's Chiron for the viewer. And classical music and cinematography with the tracking shots, quick cuts, visually compelling. That was one of my pros I had for the show.
You met Jeff Seacombe. He's the groundskeeper. He probably came off a little strange. He has like an animal friend or something. He's played by Vinnie Jones, who's known for other Guy Ritchie films, and he's been fairly high. Like, I think between him and Kaya Scodelario, they both have gotten the most credit for their performances.
Oh, okay.
But I guess he shows up a little bit later. IndieWire went further, called it a pale imitation of the movie, so they were comparing the two, and then Time called it tedious, which I found a waste of time.
From the movie,
I think that's what they should have.
But from the movie, the thing was it told the story in such a different way. I was really glad that we didn't get the Guy Ritchie nonlinear storytelling that he's so known for in things like Man from U.N.C.L.E. and The Gentleman. Here, it was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, no, I mean, okay, so the main character, did you really like his performance?
Yeah, Theo James was good.
It's just weird to think that the last time I saw him, he was jumping through time, arguing with himself as a different human, and falling in love with the same lady as she like aged up as a girl. And now to see him in this, it's such a different, like, one's a sci-fi, and I feel like there's also a love story going on here too, right?
Yeah, and I'm not sure where it's going, nor do I have full, like, I don't put all my faith in Guy Ritchie that it's going to be able to pan out nicely, but I think that it's worth a watch. If you like the movie, even though I said it wasn't like the movie, I think that you should, or probably just like Guy Ritchie projects in general, you're probably going to like this.
Yeah, I guess what I meant is, like, Theo James himself, I just have seen him from Divergent, and then from that Time Traveler's Wife. It felt like he was kind of typecast as a certain type of person. But then again, I never saw the White Lotus season 2, where apparently he played an asshole. And in this, he's playing a completely different role. So he's clearly branching out, showing his range. So that's cool. Anything else you want to say about the show?
No, I just give it a good review.
Give it a good review. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.